Hey there, and welcome to another Kidlit chat. I'm your host, Brooke Van Sickle, and I have the wonderful Shannon Anderson with me here. Hey, Shannon, how are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad you got to do this and we get to meet with you. You have such amazing books. Look at them all behind you.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. Well, for those who are watching who maybe have never heard of you before or haven't read your books yet, tell us a little bit about you and why you wanted to become a children's book author.
Sure. I was actually a teacher first. I taught for 25 years at the elementary level and the college level. And it was while I was a kid that I just kind of had an interest in writing in general. I was always one of those diary and journal writers. And I remember the first time we ever had an author visit at our school when I was in fifth grade. And we had a big writing contest leading up to her visit, and I won the contest. And so that was a long time ago, but it still obviously made an impression on me and made me want to write more stories that maybe other people could enjoy. And when I was in high school, my job was working at the public library and I was in the children's area. So I was in charge of the children's area when the children's librarian left at 4 every day until they closed. So I was surrounded by children's books even back then. And I set a goal in my diary, my senior year of high school, to be an elementary teacher and a children's book author someday. So you can imagine in my classroom, writing was my favorite time of the day. And I eventually got around to that second goal and learned how to publish a children's book. And then once I had a couple books under my belt, I was hooked.
Yeah, look at you manifesting. I love it. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. It's so true though, when you're like a kid, like they always say, go back to what did you enjoy as a kid? That's what you should do as a grown up.
Yeah.
You're doing it. Oh my gosh. Well, tell us about your books. So you have some that are featured behind you that we can see. But where do you kind of come up with your ideas or is there anything that you're working on currently or, tell us a little bit about
Yeah, actually, behind my books are like all these idea books.
them?
They are filled, and I never have enough time to write all of the ideas, for all the books. But I generally write about things that are from my life. I mean, I have one book. My very first book was about my daughter Maddie. I'm not a pirate because she had to wear a patch, and I have a middle grade novel that's about my oldest daughter. Not what I signed up for. That was about her dealing with some fears and anxieties and conquering that with her faith.
Yeah.
And then in between, I have all kinds of books that gave me ideas I got ideas from students in my classroom. Penelope Perfect is because of a student I had who was a perfectionist. Too Shy to Say Hi was about a student who was painfully shy. And a lot of my themes and messages are things that I used to teach in my classroom, like growth mindset. I have 3 books about that. I have Heroes Don't Have to Fly is all about kindness. I mean, we're constantly promoting kindness in our classroom, of course. And a book that I have coming out is B is for Belonging. It's coming out this summer. And that one's also about being kind and accepting of others and the difference between belonging and fitting in, those important things. Now, I Love Strawberries was one that wasn't about a student or one of my kids. That one actually, the character is more like me because she writes in a diary. She's very determined. She's very goal oriented. She wants to have her own strawberry patch. And so that one was just kind of my own life experience. And I also used to have a strawberry patch that I
Yeah.
used to grow my own strawberries. So yeah, they
Yeah.
come from all different places.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And they say write what you know, and
Yeah.
clearly it works. I mean, I love it. Well, you just mentioned it. I love strawberries. It was actually a top rated book in 2022, which congrats. That's
Thank
huge. So
you.
you can see the little seals on the cover.
Yeah.
But how did that feel to receive that honor? And what do you think it is about that book that, got it to that level?
Well, something I always share in author visits with kids is that book got the most rejections of any of my books. And so that's why when it started winning all of these big awards, it meant so much more because I mean, I was this close to, to just putting that in a drawer permanently because it was 10 years from when I wrote it. And here's the funny thing, it was the first story I ever wrote, and I took it to my first writing conference I ever attended to learn how to write books, and it won first place in their contest. So I was thinking, oh my goodness, like this is going to get published and I'm going to have a
Yeah.
book. And it took 10 years before I finally got a yes on it. Now I got yeses on other books in the meantime, obviously, but that one for some reason just kept getting no's. And, sometimes it was just there, we already have a strawberry book, or this is too long for a picture book, all the different things. And then finally, when I found out about Feeding Minds Press, which is the publishing arm of the American Farm Bureau Foundation, they loved the ag aspect of it, that it's growing strawberries and teaching kids, about growing them and where our food comes from. And so they latched onto it, and it was the perfect home for it. So it has made its way to all kinds of classrooms through Ag in the Classroom. And then when it got the 2023 Farm Bureau Book of the Year, that was a thrill. I got to go to Puerto Rico to accept the award. And then Good Housekeeping named it their top rated picture book in 2022. And Ryan Reynolds read it last summer.
Oh.
I was like, what? And so, I mean, especially after a hard fought battle to get it to finally become a book, to have it win all kinds of awards just means a lot. And I tell kids, don't give up on your dreams and something you believe in, because you just never know what could happen. And every time you get that no, I always tell them no stands for next opportunity. Like, this is an
Mhm.
opportunity to make it better. So maybe the next time, you'll get that yes. And so it's just an opportunity to continue to improve, learn a little bit more. And, eventually, if it's meant to be, then it will get there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. There's so many layers there. There's like perseverance, determination, belief in your own story. Because if you got that many rejections, it would have been easy just to be like, oh, okay, not this book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have this question later, but we'll skip to it anyways, because Ryan Reynolds read this book and I saw that
Yeah.
on his website. I'm like, how did that feel? Like I would have been fangirling.
It was amazing. Even just having Good Housekeeping recognize the book was amazing, because my editor had shared with me, there's a chance that I Love Strawberries could be featured in Good Housekeeping magazine. I thought she meant she paid for an ad in the
Yeah.
magazine, and I was thrilled about that. And then come to find out, the day that it was in the magazine, I had no idea. She sent me the link and said, it is in the magazine. I was like, oh my goodness. And I'm excited to post, this ad that was featured. And it wasn't an ad at all. It was an award for the top
Yeah.
picture book. And so that was a thrill. But then she told me that she had someone reach out to her about Ryan Reynolds' new TV show, Bedtime Stories with Ryan. And there was a possibility he might read I Love Strawberries on it. And that's pretty much all the information we got, except that I had to sign something saying it was okay for him to read it. Like, come on, like, am I going
Yeah,
to say no
sure.
to that? So, of course, I signed, and then I just waited and waited, and I watched every episode. And finally, on the 13th episode, he was holding the book, and I was like, oh my gosh, he really is going to read it. So, yes, I was crying happy tears, and it was just a really cool moment to get to see that.
Oh my gosh, it's like a fairy tale right here. I love it. Well, I mean, we have a lot of writers who watch this and that they're in the trenches, they're going through the rejections or they're working on their first stories. What would be your number one advice for someone who wants to be like you, wants to be a published author, but it's just starting out?
Well, the biggest thing that I have learned is to just do a lot of reading of the kinds of books that you want to write, because it's so helpful to be familiar with what is out there and what they're taking on and saying yes to. And then also, of course, writing a lot. Make sure you capture those ideas, all those idea notebooks. Make sure you capture those ideas, because you'll think you're going to remember it, but you won't. And so make sure you write them down. It's also important to keep learning. So learning from workshops and conferences and other authors. Like, my critique groups are invaluable to me. Like, these people, I haven't even met all of them in person yet, but I have two amazing critique groups, and I consider them very dear friends. And we exchange stories and help each other on our stories and cheer each other on. And that is a great way to also, improve your writing, by hearing from other writers and getting that feedback. And even getting paid critiques. Like, I will, at a workshop, if they're offering, a paid critique from some of the faculty, or sometimes I will just go somewhere, like Readsy or something, and order a critique to have that professional, unbiased opinion. It's not a friend or anyone who knows me, and they're going to just tell me, like, what's working and what's not. Those are things that help. And then I would say, of course, my last tip is to not give up because Dr. Seuss even had 27 no thank yous before he finally got a yes. And so that's part of the process. And I think that's one of the things that some people give up a little quicker because they think, oh gosh, 4 or 5 no's, that means this must stink. It's terrible. It's never going to happen. But that's not the case at all. That's pretty normal. And so I just encourage people that if you do get those no's, it's okay. We've all gotten them. And some of them, I'm actually thankful now that the state of my book that it was in, the time that it got a no, like I'm glad it didn't come out looking like that. It's gotten better, in its different iterations, and it just wasn't ready yet. So I guess those would be my tips.
I love it. That was awesome. There's so many in there. But I think that going back to even your last point, that's so true. If it's your first book, you were meant to write that book. It came to you for a reason. But
Mhm.
maybe you just needed to get those skills and,
Yeah,
really develop it into being this amazing story that it wouldn't have been on your first draft,
right.
because 10 years later, you're a different person at that point,
Absolutely.
different author.
Yeah.
That was so good. Well, thank you so much for being here and for sharing all your wisdom. What was the name of the book that's getting ready to come out? We should tell everyone about it so they can
Yeah.
learn.
B is for belonging. So it's kind of like the successor to Y is for Yet. It's through
Yeah,
Free Spirit Publishing, and it's not about growth mindset. It's more about acceptance and being kind to others. So yeah, it comes out in August.
I love it. I love it. So, guys, go and pre order it and get ready for it. Well, thank you so much, Shannon. And we also have a link so you guys can go and learn more all about her and her books and her amazing journey.